Hello everybody, and welcome to the very first episode, the premiere if you will, of Agitprop in the Morning, the show delivering you the news alongside the hottest of political takes every single week. I'm your host, Absent Atlas, and welcome to the show. But before we get started, please consider leaving a like on this video and subscribing if you'd like to see more episodes of Agitprop in the Morning. Morning. Still gotta figure out the intro. But anyways, first in the news, we are covering the very exciting FBI raid on Mar-a-Lago. On Tuesday this week, Trump released a statement declaring that the FBI had raided his home in Mar-a-Lago. Statement by Donald J. Trump, 45th President of the United States of America. These are dark times for our nation, as my beautiful home in Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida, is currently under siege, raided, and occupied by a large group of FBI agents. Nothing like this has ever happened to a president of the United States before. After working and cooperating with the relevant government agencies, this unannounced raid on my home was not necessary or appropriate. It is prosecutorial misconduct, the weaponization of the justice system, and an attack by the radical left Democrats who desperately don't want me to run for president in 2024, especially based on recent polls, and who will likewise do anything to stop Republicans and conservatives in the upcoming midterm elections. Such an assault could only take place in broken third world countries. Sadly, America has now become one of those countries, corrupt at a level never seen before. They even broke into my safe. What is the difference between this and Watergate, where the operatives broke into the Democratic National Committee? Here in reverse, the Democrats broke into the home of the 45th President of the United States. And he's completely right. Under Joe Biden, the radical Marxist-Leninist, the United States is becoming a banana republic. This is a terrible day for American patriots. But it is a beautiful day for the radical left. Finally, instead of the U.S. government invading countries with democratically elected leaders or invading countries for oil, the U.S. is invading Trump's backyard. Now, this is actually the second script I've written for this video, and I had to scrap the first because the news about this raid just keeps getting crazier and crazier. Because, you can't just raid the house of a former president, let alone crack open his safe, without a very good reason. On Tuesday, when this news came out, everyone was speculating as to what this reason might have been. And little did people know, the feds raided Mar-a-Lago because he was keeping top secret nuclear documents. Top secret documents about nuclear weapons there. Like, what do you think? That would make a good souvenir from a stay in the White House? Now, in my original script, I was cracking jokes about how the right now wanted to defund the police and Steven Crowder calling for war. Clearly, we have bigger fish to fry. What were the contents of those documents? Did the FBI recover all of them or not? And most importantly, what the absolute fuck was he planning on doing with them? And while the hogs are raging about how this raid was incredibly over the top and unwarranted and yada yada yada, people are questioning why the DOJ is treating this like he committed some sort of felony or something. Since when was that a thing, guys? Oh, I don't know, maybe since 2018 when Trump signed a bill into law making a felony? And Trump's just like, man, when I get my hands on the guy who made removing classified documents a felony, I'm gonna kick his ass. If only I knew who that guy is. Now, I don't want to speculate too much as to what happened here, because at the time of writing this, there are major developments still happening, and at the time of recording this, there are still even more major developments happening. A federal judge found probable cause, according to this reporter from the LA Times, that the FBI found evidence of espionage at Mar-a-Lago. Now, that is pretty worrying, especially if the Washington Post report on nuclear documents is true. I mean, it doesn't take much to put two and two together and speculate that those documents might have been seen by Russia. Well, that's a very big claim, and there are plenty of possibilities, so, take that with a grain of salt. We will most definitely be covering more of this story on the next episode, but for now I want to leave you with some of my thoughts. I think, given the incredibly serious implications of what we heard so far, there is a very real possibility that Trump actually goes to jail. And I don't even want to know what the blowback from that will be. Clearly, we're just scratching the surface of what happened here. And keep in mind, too, that the judge just said that this was evidence that it happened at Mar-a-Lago, so it's possible that Trump wasn't involved at all. Although I'm not really sure how likely that is, given, his history and such. But this is really such an insane story, so who knows what happens from here on out. Next, I'd like to cover recent developments in one of the largest and most disgusting online harassment campaigns ever seen. Keffals, who is one of the biggest transgender streamers on Twitch, and she's a huge advocate for trans rights. Her community isn't incredibly big, but her fans are incredibly dedicated, and she was able to actually raise over $200,000 for the campaign for Southern equality in a single stream, which is incredibly impressive. I believe she even out fundraised Stephen Colbert on his fundraiser. Now, about a week ago, Keffals was swatted by the London police. The City of London, Ontario, granted, not in the UK, though that would make sense for Turf Island. She and her loved ones were woken up at gunpoint, and Keffals was taken into custody. Even though her legal name had been changed for 10 years, police booked her under her dead name, constantly continued to dead name her throughout interrogation, and while performing a wellness check on her mother, called Keffals, quote, her son. Now, the reason she was swatted was because harassers sent fake emails to local politicians in which they impersonated her and threatened to harm all cisgender people at the London City Hall. Now, she was eventually released from police custody, but the police held on to her and her fiancé's electronic devices for days afterwards. This was a horrifying showcase of police bias against trans people, and in the aftermath, Keffals is both angered and also traumatized by the experience, which is obviously understandable. And maybe there'll be reactionaries and other assholes asking how this is different from any other swatting. Well, the fact is, unlike any other swatting, the police used the fact that she was trans as an excuse to dehumanize her and treat her like garbage while she was in their custody. The amount of harassment Keffals receives is incredibly disproportionate to the size of her community. She has 45,000 followers on Twitch, yet with the amount of harassment she receives, you'd think she was Hassan Piker or Vosh. But besides the difference in size, there's one fundamental difference between them. They are both cisgender men, and she is not. And even though the GoFundMe she set up in order to be able to move somewhere else after being swatted, that got mass reported. Right-wingers, they love to complain about cancel culture by the left. And to them, I say, shut the fuck up. You don't know what it's like to be canceled. Canceled is when random weirdos on the internet impersonate you so that the police will wake you up at gunpoint and drag you off to jail. Canceled is when you try to speak up against the hate you've been receiving on a Twitch stream and get mass reported and banned for it. Canceled is when you just try to get off your feet after this kind of harassment and get mass reported for trying to raise money so you can leave the house that you got swatted in. I'd like to end this segment on some of a more positive note, if that's even possible. When the media interviewed Keffals, she left us with a very powerful quote. Quote, if they want to stop me the next time, they'd better manipulate the police into pulling the trigger. Now, I don't know about you, but that's pretty fucking badass. And this is why Keffals is the CEO of all trans people. That's correct. That's a fact. Anyway, I'll go leave a link to her channel in the description. She's incredibly based, and I love her content, so go subscribe. Do it. Finally, for today's last segment, a powerful shaman has a warning for Vladimir Putin. Yuri Geller, a magic user living in Scotland, posted this letter to deter Putin from launching nuclear weapons. This is a warning to Vladimir Putin. There are rumors and reports that you are seriously considering the strategic use of a nuclear strike against your quote-unquote enemies in the West. I've also heard that your prospective targets include the naval bases, in particular on those on the west coast of Scotland. So I'm issuing this statement as a serious warning to you. If you resort to the use of nuclear weapons and decide to target Scotland or any other country anywhere else in the world, your plans and your missiles will backfire on you. I will use every last molecule of my mind power to prevent you from launching a nuclear attack. And I'm calling on all the wonderful peace-loving people around the world to join me. I want everyone who is reading this to take just a few seconds to help me. Please stop what you're doing right now and just take 5 seconds out of your day to visualize a radiant, energetic force field like a dazzling golden shield in the sky that will deflect and turn back any nuclear warheads that Putin attempts to deploy. And to you, Putin, I say this: as well as harnessing this immense energy of our combined mind power, there are also forces far greater than you can imagine that I'm sure will intervene to prevent you from starting a nuclear war. They are watching and waiting, and they will stop you. Do not contemplate this dire course of action. Please take heed. If you proceed, it is Russia and its people who will suffer the most. Your missile control computers will crash. Your navigation systems will fail and your missiles will malfunction. You have been warned. Yuri Geller. I don't know if you guys have ever watched Dragon Ball, but if you have, you know what this guy's talking about. If Putin decides to launch his missiles, my man is going to spirit bomb Russia into oblivion. People of Earth, lend me your mind power! But in all seriousness, Vladimir Putin, you have been warned. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Agitprop in the Morning. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider subscribing and leaving a like on this video. Will Trump go to jail? Will the people of Earth wake up to find a spirit bomb-shaped crater where Russia was supposed to be? Find out on the next episode of Agitprop in the Morning.